Welcome to For Eternia Late Night, an offshoot of the For Eternia official podcast that is a little less structured and a little more off the cuff, where we stay up late and drink and discuss everything and everything. I'm your host AJ, aka Voodoo Magic, aka Zor, and today we are hanging out with a toy photographer extraordinaire, but not only that, he's a personal friend of mine. Yes, he's John from Emerald Night Photos. Welcome, John. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Good to be back. I think it's been a while. I mean, I know we text and we DM each other on Instagram, so it's kind of cool to kind of finally get some one-on-one time. It's as close to one-on-one as you can get through this medium, but still, always a pleasure to talk to you, AJ. Man, you're wonderful person, great person to be around. Always full of just vigor and just life and just joy. I love watching your videos, man, and just I saw the one that you did with Mega J, so that's gonna be a hard act to follow. So hopefully I can kind of carry my weight here.
Oh, it was you're gonna do just fine. And it was fun to have Jay on. Jay and I also have been like touching base. We don't DM as much as like you and I do. So normally I think my first question would be, what are you drinking tonight, John? And I know we have something, special to drink tonight. But separate from that, we'll get into that in a second. Are you drinking anything else? Like I have a little gin here. And I actually have a normal cup of Joe, a normal cup of coffee. So I'm all set to go.
No, just my little cup of coffee here, man. Something I kind of need right now. Just I'm not as young as they used to be, so being up past 6, but I don't know. Did you want to show it off? I got it right here. So
yeah, show it off. So what John and I are going to be drinking tonight is the Masters of the Universe Revolution tie-in called Skeletor Blood. It's made by Dark Matter Coffee. And it's made in the good old US of A in Chicago, USA. And John was just showing the bag. We have the bag here. I don't know about you, John. When I cut this open, it's supposed to have like this Ziploc inside so you can reseal.
Yeah.
But the Ziplocs got stuck to one side of the packaging. So I actually had to just tape it shut.
Mine's beans. So did you find one that was grounded already? I have a grinder, so it was no big deal.
So they had different versions. They had the whole bean like you have. And then they had drip coffee. They had a espresso grind, press pot grind, pour over grind, and then they had a cold can.
Yeah.
I was really curious about the cold can, but it was like $30. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. $30 for that can? So that was too rich for my blood. So I actually had the drip. So this is the drip, and
oh, nice.
For everyone watching on YouTube, I wanted to do it in a clear glass. I actually got one of the mugs that came exclusively with the Skeletor Blood coffee. It's purple, it's nice, and says drink coffee, stay evil. And it's a cool mug, but I didn't want to serve it in that because I wanted to take a look at it because I wanted to see if this actually looked like Skeletor Blood. It just looks like normal coffee, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking, well, what color is Skeletor's blood? Well, you know what? In the 2000X series, when his face was melting, even though the acid was green, later when he was just like bleeding into his hands, I think his blood was green. And then when he was stabbed in Masters of the Universe Revelation, when He-Man stabbed him in episode 1, his blood was blue. And this is neither blue or green. No. Do you want to give this a try, my friend, and see what Skeletor's blood tastes like? All right, let's give it a shot.
Absolutely, yeah. That's good. It's warm.
It's warm. That's the best thing you can say about it. It's warm. On the website, they said this flavor was blueberry, semi-sweet chocolate, and tangerine. So I'm going to taste this again here.
I can definitely taste the chocolate. It is that was the first thing when I sipped it. It was kind of it's like a chocolate flavor. Even from smelling it, I can kind of get that sense.
Hmm. At least for mine, the drip, it's really not overwhelming. So I would say if you are a fan of coffee, but you hate like that flavored coffee, like full of chocolate, full of mocha, it's not that. It's very subtle. And I
Yeah.
would say so is the fruit, the blueberry and the tangerine. It's not like it's overpowering. I think you can get a hint of it. It's really not bad coffee, to be honest with you.
I'd probably buy another bag.
Yeah, but it's really novelty packaging. If you're a collector, like I have some Eternian Crunch, boxes that I never opened. So if you're into actually just saving the packaging, it's really beautiful packaging. It'd be nice on a shelf. If you do venture into it, it tastes pretty good too. So it doesn't taste as good as my gin, but it tastes good. Mm. So, John, I see the Eternia playset behind you, and I'm so glad you picked it up because I knew you were on the fence for a little while between your Mondo Battle Cat and your Eternia playset. At the time, it was being crowdfunded, and you opted to go for the Mondo Battle Cat. And then I believe afterwards, you regretted it for a very long time. And we weren't sure. As you and I were chatting together, you weren't sure if you were going to be able to get your hands on a Eternia playset. So, how did you get your hands on an Eternia playset?
So it pretty much started in PowerCon. Went to PowerCon, got to meet with a lot of friends that I met through Instagram, and one particular friend was there. And he, we hung out, and we hung out afterwards after the show and everything. Met up at a little it was kind of a cool little place, a little bar area that had like arcade games and giant size beer pong you can play with like the dodgeball type balls. And we're just chatting, having a couple drinks, having just chilling out. And the Eternia comes up, and he's like, Did you get that?" I'm like, "Nah, man, nah, I couldn't do that." Kind of what same conversation we had. And he's like, "Well, I mean, man, you missed out on that. Do you really want one?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of, I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be like cost me like an arm and a leg on the aftermarket." And he's like, "Well, I think I might have two. I think I ordered two." And in my mind, I'm like, "Wait, you think? You think you ordered two?" No, granted, we had a couple of drinks and stuff, but I mean, it was like, I don't care if I'm like, you know, passed out, whatever. If somebody says, "Hey, how many turns did you order?" If I said, I'll tell you how many I ordered. But hey, I he pulled up his account on Mattel Creations, and he said, "Yep, I got two. The one I want to keep for my son, and have, but the other one, I'll sell it to you at cost, and you know, that'll be that. If you still want one, I mean, again, this was June of last year, or August, I think, and then come around, and of course everybody's getting their Eternias, a few weeks ago, a month ago, or so have you, and then my buddy hits me up saying, "Hey man, it's here. If you still want it, you know, I'll send it." Now the only thing was, it was gonna be a little bit more extra for shipping. It's gonna be 100 or so, and it was just gonna, but that's fine because I knew even at that added extra cost, it was still gonna be a heck of a deal compared to going on eBay or even the local toy shop. I bet you it would be probably still be like $1,000. So
Is
I was
this
like, yeah, yeah.
is this friend of yours well off? I'm still stuck on that idea. Like, did I order two? Did I order three? I don't remember how many I ordered.
I mean, Aaron, I think I mean, my buddy, I think he does good. I think I mean, as much toy collectors. I mean, somebody that sees your background, AJ, they probably think, man, that guy's got a lot of stuff. He must be well off. I mean, it's all in perception, I guess. But I think I mean, I think he does well. I think he's very successful. I would believe, um, but no, he's a really stand up guy, really really cool guy, and I was still struggling though because it was still, even with the extra cost. I had some stuff, personal stuff come up, nothing big, just like, just home repair type stuff that I needed to take care of, right?
Yeah.
Just stuff that just comes up in normal everyday adulthood. And I'm thinking like, oh man, I don't know if I really can just spend this money. I mean, knowing that I need to spend on something else. And the day that he was going to ship it out, that morning, I got a DM from another gentleman that I had kind of, known for the past year or so, asking me if I'm willing to part with a ticket, a wrestling ticket from WCW from 1996, Bash to the Beach, and he offered me basically the price that this costs. And I was like, at first, I'm just like, no, 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 because I mean, my dad took me to that, and it was a very I mean, anybody those knows wrestling. We won't go on a tangent on wrestling, but that was a big show. That was the night that Hulk Hogan came out and turned heel, became a bad guy, and formed the NWO. And I was there. My dad took me to that with my sister and my mom, and I have 4 of these tickets. I had already sold them 2 of them the year prior, but then after my dad passed away last year, I was kind of like, I just want to keep these last 2. But a week ago when he hit me up, I was like, I don't. Well, wait a minute. I'm kind of thinking like, is this my dad's way of coming up? It's like, you know what, just John, just buy yourself the Eternia. I never got it for you as a kid, so here you go, man. Just here's this little, just sprinkling some fairy dust and just because it was out of the blue. I didn't reach out to anybody. The guy reached out to me. He was just like, hey, I want to buy that other ticket from you, and I'm willing to pay this amount. Which
Right.
again, that was anybody that knows how much this costs. That's what it was. And so I was like, okay, that's great. Yeah, I'll do it. So that essentially, I basically, got paid for that, and then, that basically paid for Eternia. So it I was able to kind of like, okay, I can. That's paid. I mean, that's paid off. I can take care of my other stuff because I had the money for that. The money I would have paid for Eternia out of pocket, now it's going towards this other stuff.
Right.
And I mean, it was again, I not to get real, sentimental or anything, but sometimes I think, man, that must have been my dad. My dad must have like worked his magic because the night before I was kind of stressed. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to pay for this, and I wanted to get Eternia, but not feel the guilt of having to spend this amount of money on this, knowing there's other stuff I had to take care of.
Yeah.
That selling that ticket basically just wiped that away. So once it came in, that was the other funny thing about. I was also worried, if my wife did see it, she would be like, "What the heck?" And I almost, because she was going out of town for work, for business, and she was going to be leaving. I thought, okay, I can time this perfectly. And I was telling him, like, just mail it out this day, and then, but no, when she was going to leave on Friday, it ended up coming in that Friday. Right when she was leaving, the FedEx truck came in and stopped, and was starting to unload it. And she's like, "Hey, you got something big coming out here." I'm like, "Oh no!" So I'm having to help and she sees Masters. She's like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, that better be the only time I see that box. I mean, I better not see that ever again. Like, I don't care where you hide or serve. That better be. I better not see that ever again.
Just about the collection behind me, that was if it was all bought at once and bought at today's prices, yeah, you
Oh, yeah.
would consider me to be a rich man. But it's a long-term collection, and and I go through the same struggles of what to buy, when not to buy. Look, if I was just loaded full of cash that I could just spend for entertainment purposes, I would have all of the Mondo Masters of the Universe figures. But I don't. I only actually have 2. I have She-Ra and I have the Revelation Skeletor. John, I know you and I kind of dig Batman, and I'm a big fan of Batman the animated series. And when they were coming out with all those like Mondo Batman figures, the animated style ones, I was like, oh, like Man Bat, and then the Batman itself, and then the Joker, he looks great. And I'm like, oh, I would love to have all of these. But be honest with you, I can't afford them. Like you, I have responsibilities, and the family, the house, those responsibilities come first. And once in a while, I can add to this hobby. The one nice thing that really has been really kind to collectors in regards to Masters of the Universe is the Origins and the Masterverse figures have really been affordable. And when I look at something, say those Super 7 figures for Conan the Barbarian, which I love, Conan the Barbarian. I love a lot of fantasy stuff. You know, they're like $55 a pop or something, or 60 bucks a pop, or geez, or even more, like Fire and Ice, right? That Dark Wolf action figure is,
Yep.
you know, is $95. So, you know, I I can't do that at a pop, you know, not for an action figure. So what was great, you know, especially with Masterverse, was that, and then Origin's even cheaper, but Masterverse, you know, when that was introduced in June 2021, that price point was $19.99, you know, and since it's gone up to $21, or, you know, inflation, 22,
Mhm.
but it's affordable, not just for us, but really practically the, you know, the entire Masters of the Universe community. People that would look online at like the classics and look at those resale prices and say, oh my gosh, I can't be a collector, I can't, you know, jump in the fun of this Motu fandom because, you know, I'm just priced out. But Masterverse and Origins, ooh, you know, I can get in. And so it's really been spectacular that way, that we can amass, you know, Masterverse figures, and it's really not like hard on the wallet.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that was the main thing that drew me to, going in with Masterverse was like, okay, I can't. There's no way I can go back and do classics. I don't know where, and we kind of talked about this in the past, and on the past show and stuff. It just I was in a different place when classics came out. I kind of stopped collecting, was kind of more just trying to go out and find me a wife, trying and I was kind of more conscious of that, or at least felt like having all this stuff would just like freak somebody out, going like, "What the heck is all this?"
Yeah.
And I completely missed out on the classics train. And seeing them though, once I got into collecting, like pretty much once COVID hit, I was like, "Oh my gosh, these look so amazing! Why didn't I know about this?" Or maybe I did, but I was kind of like, I just kind of like I I felt the pull, but didn't want to go all in. But
Mhm.
then seeing them in at that price point, I'm even loose. I mean, you're paying over $100 for it. Like I can't, I just can't. I can't fathom going all in on that. So seeing the Masterverse collection, I was like, I can do that. That's nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all I have pretty much on this shelf back here is the Masterverse. Just
Right.
in there. Now the one thing is I did get the classics Super 7 He-Man
Mm. The
and the
ultimate.
Skeletor
That comes
Ultimate,
with
yeah.
the additional heads, right?
Exactly, yeah, and that's one thing. It's like if I'm gonna get classics, I'm gonna definitely just get Skeletor and He-Man to start off with. Now, I mean, that could grow, little by little, but definitely, I've always had my eye on this guy here. And it's funny, I actually, I I was rewatching the Power of Grayskull documentary, and they use him a lot in the when they talk about classics, and they
Mhm.
do like a lot of the promotional, like the video, like the recreation videos, in the living room and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's because I remember that's the one when I saw him that this is the classics version that I wanted. I didn't want the other one with the kind of the kind of the chunky type hair and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, finally, I found a good deal on this guy here. And I was like, yeah, definitely. Once I saw that, I'm definitely gonna pick him up.
Because I think new in the box, those things are going like $200 a pop. I think Skeletor and He-Man, new, you know, Super 7 Ultimate sealed, I
Yeah.
think. And that's Mondo pricing, you know, right there. So yeah, it shows how expensive it is. Yeah, fortunately for me, the classics that I got were when they were at their, you know, close to their original price point. The You know, some were like the Super 7 Club Grayskull Filmation figures. I think those were sold off at Big Bad Toy Store. Some of my classics like Granomir, I bought off of eBay, but resell. But it was like the same year that came out. I mean, I think the thing goes for $500 now, $600, that Granomir up there.
Mhm.
And, you know, I paid what? $50, $40, you know, at the time for it. So, and as each year progresses, things usually the prices do go up on these things depending on the supply and demand. You know, there was a real interesting thing that happened. I guess since we're on this issue, we have these great community members in our forums, and this guy named Sci-Fi Tsunami was showing Masterverse Webstor, and I think right now, John, I think Webstor Masterverse New Eternia is the most valuable Masterverse figure out there. And it was selling and sold anywhere between $225 to $100, depending on the auction.
Wow.
Yeah. So the person who actually saved the image here is Skeletor. He's in our forums too. All
Oh
these
yeah.
are just great community members, and I don't. It's probably not going to show.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
these are sold. Okay, so the last 3 that sold March 1st, 29 bids, $102. One February 26th, $225.
Jeez.
So I don't know if it's supply or demand. Is it supply and they didn't make enough of these Webstor figures, or is it demand because that Webstor is a great figure? I actually did a top 10 Masterverse figure video
Mm.
on the For Eternia channel, and Webstor was my number one. I don't know. Maybe it's a mixture of both, little supply and demand, but this thing is selling crazy. And this thing is not even a year old, I don't think. That Masterverse Webstor. And that was the first
No.
one with drop down hips too, with the extra.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that just goes to show you that if you're into a figure and it's at a low price point, don't wait, because you never know. Even Masterverse can go up in pricing.
That's crazy. I mean, but now that I think about it, it does kind of make sense because I haven't seen them in like on BBTS or any of these kind of other, websites or, or ones that, can't really talk about I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd have to go back and look. Yeah. I mean, and check that because that's crazy. Because you wouldn't think, I mean, at this point, Masterverse would be valued that high at this, but I mean, if they are, I mean, if we're at that point where, like you said, supply and demand is calling for it, then yeah, maybe we're already at that price point.
Yeah, and for the audience at home, this is definitely what's sold on eBay. I know you could look and anyone could be asking for any price,
Yeah.
anything astronomical. I could list a web store for $1,000. Doesn't mean it will sell. But these are actual sold transactions. They're in green, they're not in red, and people had paid for them and the auctions are closed. So it's really quite amazing. And it just means that, if you're into a figure, get in on it. And if you're interested in 2 or 3 and you want an army build, don't necessarily wait and believe, it's going to go on clearance. I'm going to get it a lot cheaper. It's going to drop down in value. Because to be honest with you, sometimes it's not the case. I think someone was mentioning about wanting to army build Buzz Off, right? And have a
Oh
bunch
yeah.
of the Adrenids, and that one hasn't gone down, and that was another one that's popular. It's not selling as high as Webstor, not at all, but I think Pixel Dan had indicated that that was his favorite Masters of the Universe figure for the year. So it just goes to show you, everyone at home, if you're going to want 3, if you're going to want 2, just pre-order them right then and there, because even if it's not classics and it's Masterverse, or definitely if it's Origins, it could just shoot up in price. Sometimes you could just, you could find the figure naked Stratos, on your retail shelf forever, and and you'll have no problem finding him. But sometimes, if it's manufacturing or if it's just popularity, man, you're gonna kick yourself if you didn't grab it initially at that low price point.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way with Triclops Origins. I'm just like, ah, man, he's kind of up there right now in price wherever I look at. And I did get him like, yeah, when he was at retail for my nephew, and I'm just like, oh, should have got me 2 of them because I've mentioned that Triclops is my favorite, so definitely for the cartoon collection, I am and kind of going back to missing stuff when it first came out, and then it's like, well, can I go back and get that collection, like the Filmation Classics versions? And I thought about that because I really like cartoon accurate figures. That's why I get the Super 7 GI Joes. I get like even the Thundercats. I mean, stuff that's reminiscent of the cartoon. But again, with that price point, I just couldn't do it. But then the cartoon collection comes out, and
Yeah.
then I started looking at the He-Man and Skeletor and all them. I'm just like, wow, these look pretty good, And so I decided to go ahead and get He-Man. And once I got He-Man, I'm just like, I think I'm gonna have to get the rest of them. I'm definitely gonna have to get. I mean, seeing Tila and Man Arms in that classic cartoon look. But again, I'd rather just get them now at this $17.99 price point, then having to, I mean, what makes more sense, doing that or going back and paying 100, $200 for, the classics version? So,
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad it's there for him. I have the Club Grayskull, the classic versions,
mm,
He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Tila, and Skeletor, and the Super 7 one as well. And I know, I love my Filmation cartoon, and they're all down here, and Beastman's right there, Trapjaw,
yep.
and they're wonderful. And it's so great that they're available to new collectors, at this fantastic price point. So even though you might have missed jumping in years ago, if you want to jump in now, you can without, busting your wallet. Except if you get Eternia. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Plus, it scales well with, the cartoon collection does scale well with Eternia. So, I mean, they're slightly bigger than Origins, but I mean, they scale pretty well.
Yeah. Do you is that oh, I see you have the track set
That's
up.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you have all three. Okay. I know you can set up the tracks on each tower individually.
Mm.
I haven't set up the tracks yet. I don't know. I haven't. They're just not set up. It, the kind of wind went out of my sail. I know you and I
Yeah.
briefly talked about this before, John, but yeah, I was all over it. I was one of the first to get Eternia, I think. And I was so excited to get Eternia. I was building it. I was not excited about the stickers, man. I hated
No.
putting on the
Oh,
stickers, and I tell you, guys, guys and gals, for anyone at home, these stickers, if you accidentally put it on incorrectly, there's no peeling it off. You peel it off, it starts ripping. So you
yes.
have to get it right the first time or just live with your mistake. And so it's like, I'm sure John was sitting there the same way, like a surgeon, trying to get the
Yeah.
sticker on right. And it's actually very stressful. But once I got through the stickers, I was really excited to get this thing together. And then well, my mother-in-law passed away, and that kind of like took the wind out of my sails. I was going to do this like whole video presentation and stuff like that. And when my mother-in-law passed away, I had to be there for my family and I had to be there for my wife. And since we have moved beyond that, I still don't have the momentum I did. It kind of lost its luster for me. Not that I don't love Eternia, but I don't know. I just, again, that sail has no wind, and I don't know. Maybe it was just the whole moment of it. I lost both my parents. Both of them died, and I was told in advance. Both my mother and my father went into hospice care at different times, and I was told in advance, that your mom is going to die, and I had roughly about a month before her death. And then with my father, when he went into hospice care, I roughly had a week before his death. But at least I had time. The family had time to say goodbye, spend a little time with him, kind of try to make peace with the whole situation and accept that he's leaving and process it. And but with my mother-in-law, the night before I was building Eternia, and then we knew she was struggling with her health. And then, we found out from the doctor that she had to be entered in hospice care. And I was like,
Mm.
wow, okay. So we went to see her that night, the night we found out she had to go into hospice care. And then less than 24 hours, she had died. And it was less than a day. And family were even like on the way to see her. They were driving when
Yep.
when she died, and we couldn't tell them why they were driving because you don't know, you can't call someone up and say, just to let she died, because you don't know if someone's going to be inconsolable. You don't know if someone's going
Mm.
to be able to to continue driving, right? Once they get that news, you know, and so you just have to let them make their way to the destination and then break it to them. So it was just, you know, it was so sudden. I mean, I can't even imagine the poor people that have to go through like losing someone like to a car accident or something like that, you
Yeah.
know, or it's just a sudden, it's a snap of a finger and they're gone. I know there people have argued there's pros and cons of losing a loved one long term
Hmm.
versus losing a loved one short term. But I don't know. At least for me, that 24 hours is too short, and for my wife, and bless her heart, my wife, she was strong through it, and you know, she's such an incredible woman, and so but I needed to be there for her, and so yeah, so you know, I was all gun ho, and then this happened, as you know, because you and I talked about it a little, John, and then it stopped, and I never created the video, and I've been continuing with foreternia.com, and I don't know, maybe there's some sort of mental connection with this Eternia, but I haven't even done the
The
tracks.
tracks.
Yeah, you know, and it's just still sitting there in bags, and I don't know. Maybe it's somehow I have some sort of subconscious thing going on and they're connected and I'm just not ready to finish it. I don't know. So that's my story.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get that completely, man. It's always tough. It's always tough when you're dealing with that. And I mean, and I know you, AJ, man. I know you probably. I mean, I mean, awesome husband, and I mean, your wife's probably, you know, I think she's well taken care of, and I think you got to focus on that when stuff like that comes up.
Yeah.
And I think that I would be in the same situation. Like I would be, you know, if something happened to, you know, my wife's, you know, thankfully she still has both her parents, but if something would happen to them, it's like, yeah, I couldn't, you know, this would be like, I can't even, I mean, I wouldn't be able to shoot. I wouldn't be able to do anything. I would have to be, you know, completely there for her.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, like, kind of like, in what you were saying before about, you know, losing somebody quick or to, you know, long term. I know for my dad, and we never really talked about that. It was more or less, I was at a work conference. He had kind of gone in the hospital, and his health had kind of been, you know, failing, but he was still doing all right. He was still kind of fighting, but I had to go to a work conference in Las Vegas, and I remember saying, you know, goodbye to him in the hospital, going, "Hey, I'll see you when, you know, when you get back." And yeah, I mean, before the week was even over, I got the call from my mom saying, "Hey, you better make it back. So I don't think he's gonna make it." And I'm just like, "Oh my god!" I stopped whatever I was doing and then got on the first flight that I could and and that was like the worst because it was a late flight too because I had to get there the next morning. I had to make sure I get there the next morning because they were pretty sure he was not gonna make it. You know, I mean, even maybe even through the night. You know, I was trying to get there as soon as possible and you know being there on a flight just wondering like can I make you know because you're out of control at that point you just gotta just you know just I'm just on the flight and just hopefully I get there in time to see him and he can be conscious enough to know that I'm there but just knowing just all these thoughts run through your head and all these memories and everything and you know for me and him I mean again I feel like a lot of this is I get from him because you know we used to go collecting together you know he taught me all the secrets of collecting where you go in there and you would hide stuff, you know, in a different aisle. You would take a figure and go hide it in the towel or the sporting goods or somewhere, and just like, okay, when I get paid next week, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna grab it, and then, you know, it's mine. So yeah, it's tough, and thankfully my wife was there for me when that happened, and it's just and I imagine if something like that, I would just, yeah, it's 100% agreeable of where you're at, man. Because I was kind of, you know, I was asking like, you know, did you get it, man? Where's the video at? This and that. And when you told me that, I was like, oh yeah, I feel you, man, because that's a tough time, and you know, thankfully, it sounds like you know your wife is, you know, she's strong and she's pulling through it, and I know you're there for her. So yeah, I think she's got a good man with her, man. You're taking care of your wife, your queen.
She takes care of me too. So, you know,
Mhm.
that's when, you know, she's not just my wife, she's my best friend, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yep.
and that's when you know your relationship is at optimum level, you know. So, yeah, I'm very fortunate and hopefully she feels that way too. When I'm not doing something wrong, which is often.
Yeah, that's all of us. So yeah.
Yeah. But you know, speaking of the Eternia, man, I think the Eternia is the playset is the reason for these international shipping problems. You're familiar with the international shipping
Mhm.
problems, right? And I know it's all speculation and it's a hunch, but you know, in the beginning, when Mattel started having these shipping problems, at the time, we started seeing that people, fans, collectors who ordered Eternia were getting damaged Eternia playsets, not damaged playsets itself. The actual plastic inside was fine, but the box, right? The packaging was ripped apart. It was ripped to shreds. Um, Mine was actually ripped to shreds too on one side. It was,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I don't know how yours was, but mine was definitely pulled apart. Fortunately, the contents were fine, but just not the packaging itself.
My box, so it's shipped twice, so I don't blame my buddy for saying, because hey, it is what it is. I don't know if it was shipped to him fine, at the first time, and then when he shipped it to me, I don't know if that made caused it, but to me, I don't look too highly, big on that, but it does have a crease, and I think I sent you a picture of the box and everything, but you can definitely see where it did have some sort of like, it kind of like got it did get punctured, but you could definitely see a crease like on the front of it, so it's
Yeah.
definitely had some sort of like, maybe it just got pressed in or something, but thankfully no punctures or anything, but yeah, definitely it didn't go unscathed, put it that way. And that's kind of it was a little disheartening, but I'm not a obviously I'm not an inbox collector, but you still want to have a nice clean box for something like this, man. Especially when I tell my wife, hey, you know what? In a couple years, we could probably sell this for 5 grand. Something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, be honest with you. Look, all these people were posting these pictures and complaining and saying they want their money back. They want another Eternia, and they were showing pictures of not just the shipping box, but the actual Eternia packaging with all the beautiful artwork on it, just ripped and punched and popped holes in it. When you ship something and something is damaged, if you ship through FedEx, UPS, and you have insurance, there's always a investigation, an inspection period, because John, I could send you a crystal vase, right, in a box and insure it. It's $1,000 vase, okay, but I could put it loose in a box, no bubble wrap, no packing peanuts, send it to you. It'll just bang around, and then once you get it, it's in like a million shards. And then I'll call up say FedEx and say, you owe me my money. You damaged my vase. It showed up in shards. Give me my $1,000 that I insured it for. Well, the thing is, they're going to send out an inspector, in regards to the claim and check out the packaging. They want everything and they want to see. And then they would go there and investigate and say, there was no bubble wrap around the vase. There was no shipping peanuts. It was improperly packaged. And we're not responsible for the claim. Now, on the other side of that coin, if that vase was bubble wrapped, if there was shipping peanuts all in that box and it was beautiful, and I shipped it to you, but you get it and there's a big puncture hole through there, like someone took a pallet jack, or it fell off a truck, right? And it showed up damaged, and say, AJ, it's damaged, and FedEx did an inspection, they would realize, oh yeah, this was clearly damaged in transit. It's got impact damage. Here's your $1,000. So it could always go two different ways, and the fault can be on the shipper, and the fault can be on the courier, right? Who's delivering it. And in regards to this Eternia playset, when I received it, I could tell that it was not packaged properly to preserve the colorful Eternia packaging. It really, I'll give you an instance or example. Hang on. I gotta take this one out of the box. Okay, here is a Classics Huntara shipping box. Right now, inside is the figure, and this is what we care about. Right, this internal packaging, right? This is what we care about. This is what we want to be pristine mint. But what Mattel did was ship it in the shipper box. But this is not the actual technical shipper box. This was shipped in a box.
Mhm.
So basically, you had 2 layers protecting what was inside. Well, with the Eternia, they used this as the shipping box, basically. You know, there was only 1 layer, and then the beautiful packaging on the inside was your next layer. And unfortunately, they really needed to be double boxed in brown cardboard to preserve it, and it wasn't. So while there is 2 layers of cardboard, you know, the outside shipping box and then the beautiful artwork box, that does protect the actual playset. Because I don't, as far as all I've seen, all the complaints, no one's complaining about, like, you know, a broken tower. But it didn't protect the pristine packaging. And Mattel, in my opinion, should have packaged it better, knowing that this was going to collectors who care about not just the object inside, but the packaging as well. And that having pristine packaging really raises the value for this kind of thing. And for someone to spend that much money and then to get it and it's ripped apart like that, it's really not fair. So based at least on the way it was delivered to me, I kind of felt like it was more Mattel than FedEx. So just the way it was packaged, it needed to be packaged a little more secure. And maybe this is simply, and again, this is just speculation, maybe it's just simply because Mattel Creations didn't have any experience shipping such a heavy, bulky item, you know? But back to my original theory, man, because so all of this is happening and people are posting like in groups and stuff like, this is my email to Mattel Creations. I want a refund. I want a new one. You know, all this is happening and all these people are saying, you know, this is damage in transit. This is BS. Suddenly, Mattel can't ship internationally anymore. You know, Mattel actually tweeted out that they're right now they're looking for, you know, options to be able to ship internationally. They can't ship internationally. So without having any knowledge, and I have no inside information, I can't believe this is just a coincidence. And perhaps, remember I was talking about that, you know, it could be the shipper's fault, it could be the courier's fault, and they have insurance claims, and maybe, you know, Mattel is saying, hey, you're responsible for this, FedEx or DHL or UPS, and UPS are saying, you should have packaged this better. And maybe there's some sort of breakdown. And next thing you know, they don't have a courier to ship internationally.
I mean,
But
it is funny, real quick, just because, like, so my McFarlane Batmobile, I don't know if you can see, it's like back there. So that's the version that I got off of Amazon. You know, it was the Amazon exclusive Batmobile, and it was kind of funny because it was like, so it came in an Amazon box, right? And I open up the box, then it comes out with a McFarlane box, brown box. Open that up. Then you get another box. It's another McFarlane box. I open that up, and then finally the packaged Batmobile box comes out. So that had, I mean, just for that little Batmobile, you know, had, now in my mind I'm thinking like, this is crazy. Like, when am I going to get to the, you know, to the actual, you know, vehicle? But in hindsight, that makes I mean, yeah, I mean, the box is pristine now. Now, if I ever want to sell that, or if I, you know, just for a reason, it, you know, they put in, now I don't know if that's McFarlane or, well, I know it was in 2 McFarlane boxes, so that's them being extra careful. But then you have Amazon on top of that, you know, them shipping through them, they're going to put it in a box as well. I mean, I know you and JJ, y'all are kind of on different sides of that. I do want to tend to side with Mattel, or, you know, say that it was Mattel, because again, it was the Mattel, you know, shipper box, and the Eternia inside of that. I mean, I'm hoping, like, for Cat Slayer Super 7, I don't have the Thunder Tank, but I've seen that's in pretty good packaging, you know, at least as far as shipping it. They do a pretty good job of that. But for a very expensive item like Eternia, I mean, I wonder at the people that get stuff on eBay, if they're willing to even, and seeing this now, if they're willing to, I mean, can you imagine paying like 1,500 for that? And the guys, the people who are going to sell it, I mean, are going to ship it in the Mattel. I doubt they're going to put it in any kind of other kind of box. They're just going to ship it in the mailer and run the chances of that getting thoroughly damaged. I mean, that's that would be insane. I mean, because in my mind, I'm thinking when all this was starting, like, oh, they're going to take all kinds of precautions and it's going to come out just fine and no biggie. But then, seeing my friends, my other Motu collectors and seeing their pictures and like, oh yeah, it got punctured or this and that. I'm like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like, yeah, they think they should have put a little more precaution in there rather than just the I'm trying to remember. It was just basically like the wooden or like the cardboard kind of corner borders or like the sides. That's pretty much all that they had. So
Yep.
I mean,
And that's why mine had all that damage, man. And luckily for me, because I'm not criticizing anyone else, I could live with the damage on the box, but I'm not happy with it, but I'm living with it. But there's plenty of people who, expected more, and rightly so. And then sent those emails and saying, look, I want another one. I want a refund. I want some money back. And this must be, I have to imagine, a huge disaster for Mattel. So much so. Like, we're looking at the new Masterverse Snout Spout figure that just came out on Mattel Creations, and it's going to go on sale on Tuesday. And it's saying that it's only going to ship in the US. Well, that doesn't mean previous orders are shipping internationally. Apparently, what at least I'm being told by collectors is previous orders that have been placed that they did accept international shipments, including Eternia play sets. None of them or no more of them have gone out. So I guess they're still looking for some sort of courier to get those out. So if you haven't received like an Eternia playset yet and you live in Canada, well, you're waiting until Mattel can figure out what to do. So it seems like a huge, gigantic mess. And I got to believe, like I said, it's just not a coincidence, that there is a connection, between the Eternia shipping problems, and now their inability to ship internationally. Big company like Mattel, you think companies would be bending over backwards, right? To get their shipping.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that there is a problem now makes me believe that there are two sides litigating, maybe not legally, but having an issue and are coming to a head. I don't know. It's a big disaster. And it just makes me feel bad for all the international fans in this community.
Like Jay hasn't. I don't think Jay's gotten his return yet. He was actually DMing me because he saw my photos of it. And he's like, "Oh man, I can't wait to get mine." But glad you got yours. So yeah, that stinks for people that haven't gotten it yet. And you're seeing the wave of fans starting to kind of get theirs. But I kind of see the connection between the two, but still with because Rokon or he didn't get or Rockon. I keep wanting to pronounce it Rockon. He was he shipped international, or was it was just in the US?
He was shipped in a few international countries. It wasn't all of them, but I think it was a couple places in the UK, and it was, I think, in Canada. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they were able to use a different courier. I don't know what they normally use versus, that would be an interesting question to find out what they usually ship. And for anyone who got a Rock On, did that ship a different method? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But clearly this is not a normal situation here, and it is a huge mess. And I hope it could be fixed because, if you look at the Snout Spout, right? The Masterverse new Eternia Snout Spout is now going to be listed on sale at Mattel Creations this Tuesday. But right now, the website is currently saying only customers in the United States can buy it. This figure, John, was really arguably, from what I've seen, the most anticipated Masterverse figure out of all the figures shown at the San Diego Comic-Con 2023. And there were a lot. People were going crazy about this Snout Spout. He looked awesome. He was oversized, right? And
Yeah.
people flip out for those new Eternia figures anyway. If we get to Tuesday and only the US collectors can go in and buy this, man, I just feel horrible. This isn't the 1980s, where we had those dividing lines in our nations. And this is really like a global economy. And this is really a global fandom at this point. And to cut off everyone except the United States and giving them a inability to purchase this, once it basically, we're talking about how expensive it is to be a collector, right? It's already expensive for them as it is because they pay extra shipping rates. They sometimes pay those tariffs and those duties, to get them in their country. And then Zor forbid if they got to pay like on eBay or a reseller, where they pay inflated prices twice, three times, four times just to get a figure. So if they can't get this figure through Mattel Creations, so many of them are just going to be priced out and they're not going to be able to get it at all. And it's really unfortunate. I really feel bad for these collectors that want to, they want to participate. This fandom, I was saying before, this fandom, has a lot of things going for it, including our passion. But, our strength with Masters of the Universe over so many other brands is our numbers, I think over G.I. Joe, over Thundercats. I mean, I'm a big fan of Thundercats too, but I think Masters of the Universe, the fandom is just so much larger. So to cut off such a portion of them, I don't know. It just kind of like breaks my heart. I really think they should actually provide some sort of opportunity. I mean, to be honest with you, I really think they should just hold off providing Snout Spout. If they don't, if it stays true on this website and it's only offered to United States collectors on Tuesday, they should either hold off from selling it on Tuesday until they can internationally ship, or you know what? Estimate how many usually go to international customers to begin with, and then put those aside. And then later have an offer for international customers only, none in the United States, so they can get that figure too. Because otherwise, it's not really fair and it's so stressful. And this is supposed to be a hobby that's supposed to reduce our stress, right? Life is tough as it is. Our jobs, sometimes our families, and usually we resort to our hobby to relieve stress, not to create more stress.
I agree, and I think it's crazy. And I want to say there was something going on with the cats there too. That was like something with the international ordering or through Canada, but they were able to kind of rectify that, through the crowdfunding. I think they were able to kind of get that all worked out. And I agree with that. I mean, as far as if you can't offer it to everybody on Tuesday, then you should just hold off and figure out, whatever the problem is, whether it's the shipping or what. I mean, in my mind, I mean, I can kind of understand Eternia, that them kind of figuring out, okay, we're kind of goofed this up a little bit, and we got to kind of reevaluate how we're going to get these things overseas. But I mean, for these figures, I mean, I don't understand why they can't follow the same model they've been doing for, just like these other exclusives like Godlin and Vicor. I mean, just all these different, exclusives that have gone out to overseas. And like you said, I mean, international, I know there's a ton. I mean, UK is probably as big, or in Germany as well. I mean, as far as Motu communities, I
Mhm.
mean, there's tons of people on my page that I'm cool with that are from the UK, and that, and, have a legitimate gripe when they say, oh, I mean, you got him already? Like, I can't get him over here, this and that. And I know some people, it took forever to get King Grayskull out there. I mean, the Masterverse person. I mean, it was crazy. Like, I mean, I posted a picture of him, and they were like, "Oh, man, I still can't get him over here." And there's like 10 of them at a Target right now, but it's like they can't get nothing in the overseas in the UK. So I don't know. I agree with you there, man. They should, if they can't figure it out, then maybe just hold off. I know for me, it'd be a little bit, I kind of agree with that though, because it's like for $33, and then seeing that Bret Hart, the Hart Foundation 2-pack that's coming out later in the week from Mattel Creations, I'm just like, I don't know, man. It's like they're really gonna go for my wallet this coming week. I'm kind of dreading that, but so if they were decided to hold off on Snout Spout, like I'd be all for that. Just kind of let me let me kind of take it easy on my wallet. But no,
Yeah.
definitely for those international fans, they definitely need to get their hands on this guy. Even though it's kind of funny because I did have Snout Spout, as a kid, had the water feature, had all that, cool stuff. I actually put ink dye in it one time and I sprayed at my dad and kind of got upset. So, because he had he was dressed for work and I just like went up there and started shooting it. And he just like, it's like, what the, he just got so mad. But he always was kind of like how many appearances? Did he just have one appearance in Filmation? Or
I think it was in. I don't think he appeared in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but he did appear in the Christmas special and in She-Ra. So yes,
Okay.
Filmation, but I don't believe in the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series. So just a Christmas special and She-Ra itself. But he is a great looking figure. You know what? Let me try to bring this up, and if I have to cut
And
this
that's the
out.
thing. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
and that's the funny thing. It's just like, kind of going into toy photography. I mean, you see him at San Diego Comic-Con, and he's like, "Oh man, it looks great." It's Masterverse type figures, a new one, and one that we kind of were chatting about, like where's Snout Spout? As you see the waves being released, and you kind of see the promotions for them, it's like, where's Snout Spout? Where's Snout Spout? And then finally, okay, oh, he's gonna be exclusive, and then you see the images, you see the toy photography images, whoever they got from Mattel doing their photography. To me, I mean, that's the selling point. I see those images as a photographer, as somebody who likes to do this as a hobby, and I see those photos. I'm like, okay, you just sold me on getting this figure. I was kind of on the fence, because again, he was kind of a goofy character, and like maybe I can not get him. I mean, I'm probably like 97% all Masterverse. There's a couple of ones I missed. I'm not like you, AJ. I don't got every single one. There's a couple that I'm missing. Just one, one or two of them. But I'm thinking I could probably pass on them. But I'm just like seeing those photos. I was sold. I was sold like completely.
I'm like, on the fence. What are you talking about? I'm thinking to myself, I'm screaming to myself. All right, let me see if I can share the Forternia website here. I don't even know how you could be on the fence of this one, sir. How dare you?
Well, I mean, look at those pictures. That sold it.
First,
That
John, I'm
sold it.
offended because you're against firefighters. Do you realize Snout Spout is a firefighter? How dare you not support your local firefighters?
Is that the or is that the new Eternia bio? Because I know you and Jay were kind of talking about that last show because they changed Mechaneck to a submariner and stuff like
No,
that. So that's
that's from
always been him.
yeah, that's from his original lore, my friend. He was a firefighter. So, um, so he look at this. Now, you know what the one thing, look at those eyes, right? And maybe you can help understand. So for anyone listening at home, Snout Spout has these lit eyes that seem to glow yellow, and it mentions something about this, and but I'm not sure the phrase and what that exactly means. Oh, figure has special water blast effect. I get that. It's going to be this little blue water effect that you probably can attach to the trunk, and
Mhm.
light pipped eyes. What does that mean? Light
I s-
pipped
yeah,
eyes.
I saw that and I was just like, maybe by flashing a light on there and then maybe they get some sort of glow or something. I'm not sure. I mean, when I first saw the pictures, I thought, oh, well, that's just Photoshop. That's kind of just some added effects in there. But then I read that and I was like, okay,
Hmm.
that'll be interesting. I mean, if what he looks like in the pictures, if that's what is you're gonna have in your hand, then that's pretty cool. So you were kind of wondering about you kind of the little effect I would do on my photos for Webstor. You were kind of like, oh man, it's like I want kind of glowy eyes, and you mentioned that in your review of it, of a Webstor. You wanted him to have kind of glowy red eyes for him.
Yeah.
So if they do something like that, I mean, that's doesn't show it there, and yeah, right there, it's like yeah, he's going. Unless there's a switch on the back of his head, I don't know.
Yeah, I would love if there's a switch on the back of his head, but maybe there's a
Yeah.
hole in the back of the head where you have to sort of direct the light. Be honest with you, the lighting in
Yeah.
that picture there looks like it's photoshopped, you know? It looks
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's a little creativity going on there, but, look at that axe. Come on, Sean, you need this. Come on.
That's
What
cool
else?
with the other handle right there, because then you can kind of get him in a pose where he's just like holding it like double fisted like that, and he can just like come down.
Mm.
But it does say that he's 8 inches tall, so I'm gonna have to put it on his knees just like I did with Too Bad in my display case. I mean,
Really?
I
Does your
mean,
your display case doesn't go that high?
no, no. I mean, I could probably make it that high, but I like to. For me, it's my OCD. I like to have everything even, so everything is like,
Uh,
and so I can fit as a couple figures in there. Because if I try and get it all kind of varied for different sizes, so yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, Too Bad back there. They're having to be on their knees, and this guy's gonna have to, and he's pretty wide too. I think what they say with, I guess, with the ears. So
yeah, look at this thing here though. Points of articulation 30, 2 in the body and 5 in the snout. So there's
that's
5
cool.
articulation points in the snout, which is cool. Yeah.
Kind of
So,
like Mechanic, yeah. Can have a little that little articulate effect. That's really cool.
yeah. I can't wait. So, and this is what I mean. This is what I'm sitting here licking my chops, and then international fans right now are nervous that they're not even going to be able to get a chance at this one. Someone had inquired. Yeah, Talis 76 Photography on Twitter reach out to Mattel Creations today. They let me share their email response when they were, looking for clarification like, "Hey, I'm in Canada. Can I get this? Why can't I get this?" And Mattel Consumer Support says, "Thank you for reaching out. I apologize, but we are unable to accept international orders for most items at this time. Regrettably, we are unable to provide an exact date when it will be fixed. Products available to
Mm.
ship outside the US and countries eligible for purchase will be noted on each product page. I understand your disappointment that we are not able to ship to you at this time, and I apologize for the inconvenience. We are actively working on this and will update our website as soon as we have resolved the issue." So I don't know. It doesn't sound like necessarily it's going to be fixed or snout spout. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but it doesn't necessarily feel that way. And people are unhappy. Well, that's
Yeah.
crappy. I hope they're looking at these comments. I really hope they sort this out. Jonathan says this is a very poor look for Mattel. Why not delay the order date until all of this
Yeah.
is sorted out? Yep, that's what I was saying. Yeah. So
I mean, at the
it's
least, I mean, like you mentioned also, I mean, maybe set aside some stock where, okay, we can't ship international now, but maybe in a couple of weeks when we get this worked out, okay, here's a set, that we can ship out internationally for, people overseas. So, I mean, hopefully maybe they're thinking that far ahead, but if not, then that sucks. I mean, that really sucks that you can't,
Mhm.
people outside the US won't be able to get Snout Spout or
Yeah.
anything else. Because I think even the rest of their I think creations. I think that's not just Master Motu. It's all everything right on Mattel. So like anything coming out from WWE or anything
Yeah.
else next week, I think they can't ship it, which sucks because man, I mean, there's some great stuff they're coming out next week. So or this coming week.
I mean, I guess it's gonna be at some point a case by case basis, but yeah, I mean, everyone, be afraid, be very afraid kind of thing.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't get though is it seems like we keep losing points of articulation. Maybe I should pull this back up for anyone who's watching on our YouTube. So, for some reason, and it started a while back, I don't know if you noticed, but Spouts, Spout, I can't. Well, why am I not forgetting his name here?
Snout Spout.
Snout Spout. Thank you. You know what? I'm having gin. I keep sipping.
Hey,
I
there you
know.
go.
I know it looks like water, but I'm having gin. It's Bombay Dry Gin and Snout
I've
Spout.
had
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
pretty
And
good.
what am I? So if so, let me go back to this because I want to show you here because I want you to look at his elbows. Do you notice anything special about
Hmm.
that elbow? He's missing double jointed elbows.
Yep.
They've returned to like this classic figure style. And I don't understand why they have single jointed elbows. You know what figure was also like this? The King Keldor figure had
And
single,
Adam.
and Prince Adam. And it started with Prince Adam. Now, we reported this on the For Eternia website. Prince Adam, the promotional video that Mattel Creations did, showed us a Prince Adam with double jointed elbows. But the one we actually got in hand had, a single joint.
Yep.
So I guess in a way you could argue false advertising. So I wonder what happened. I mean, especially with Prince Adam. I mean, that's the way you advertised it to us. But lo and behold, the figure we got didn't have that double joint. So it seems to be a trend now with Masterverse where we're going sort of backwards with articulation. And I wonder why. I'm not, it doesn't seem like a lot of people have talked about this, but it was just something that I noticed.
Yeah, and to me, it kind of made, I don't want to say sense, but with Adam and Keldor, because they were maybe different, they were more regal for some reason. Like they chose those characters for the single joints. I was like, well, maybe it's something to do with the material or the deco on them or whatnot. But Snout Spout, he's a heroic warrior, and I saw that and I was kind of like, huh. And part of me is kind of, I don't get too hung up on the joints. And we've talked about this also where we chat about it. It's like, I mean, I have a varied mixture of different kind of figures and stuff. So I don't really get hung up on, well, this is single joints or this is double joints or this and that. But I kind of go back and forth. The Adam, it does have a little bit of a cleaner look. Especially off to the side. I was actually playing with the Revolution He-Man or the Battle Armor Revolution He-Man earlier, and I don't know, something about just them just having that gap. I guess it seems like makes it a little less clean looking in my eyes, rather than the single joint that makes it a little bit more kind of like we saw with Snout Spout. A little bit, it kind of fills in that gap a little bit. But I do get this. I do understand why people like double joints because then you can kind of just get the different poses and it just gets it looks a little bit better to get them in certain articulation. But
You can't bring like their hand to their chin, basically.
Right.
It only goes so far. So it really just depends on the pose you're trying to accomplish. If there's some sort of dynamic pose you're looking for, then you're frustrated. But I do get it's a cleaner look. It's a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
Postability versus a cleaner look. And I do understand. Look, some people just put it on the shelf and they don't do any kind of dynamic pose. Look at my figures. None of them they're just standing there, like they're posing for a picture. So for me, it doesn't necessarily, or for someone who just displays their figures that way, it's not necessarily a problem. But some people that really like these dynamic poses, well, for some reason, there seems to be a conscious effort that at least Mattel hasn't publicly talked about. And I wonder what's going on. It seems to be a trend now that a lot of the figures are starting to lose where everything was double jointed at first. And now it's starting to regress in a way, and in a way that was the idea, right? If you remember, and I know you weren't really into classics, but the idea from classics into Masterverse, the idea was state-of-the-art articulation, good or bad, however it looked, you didn't necessarily like the elbows. The idea was that the classics were not today's articulation. They were a little behind in the current trends, the current technology. So Masterverse was state of the art, and now they're sort of backpedaling a little bit. To go back to your Dark Wolf, because I know you have the Dark Wolf figure, that thing didn't have double jointed elbows either. You know what? That one is actually kind of limited in articulation too, which is crazy because that figure is like $95.
But it's so cool looking, man.
It is so cool looking, but what's so special about that figure? Meaning, does it do your dishes? Does it scoop your kitty litter? Think about it. John, 95. Now, look, I love Fire and
Yep.
Ice. I do. I have the special edition Blu-ray. I have an
Mhm.
animation cell from it. But I couldn't pull the trigger on that figure because the price point is ridiculous. We're talking about being priced out for things. That thing is
Yep.
like an overpriced classics figure now. It's not as much as that Super 7 Ultimate Skeletor, and He-Man, but still, I mean, $95, and that's just for one, and they're going to come out with Tigra next,
Tigra.
right? And then maybe Larn and Necron and stuff, and I'm going to drool over Necron. And
Oh yeah.
it's funny, we had this is a late night show. We had he dad in our forums saying he's going to get Tigra, and his wife is going to give him such a hard time over those nipples. Now, I realized that Tigra in that Fire and Ice scene, she's coming out of the water, and it's very accurate to the scene. But he said his wife is going to give him such a hard time, and I started imagining how many wives are going to walk into their room in a collection and see that figure there and go, "What is that?"
Yeah, definitely. Just like you're asking like something I would get razzed about, or something I would be kind of you were asking Jay about that, and ask or something it would be a guilty pleasure. It would definitely. I was thinking if you asked me that, like it would be that, but I don't think I couldn't fathom getting Tigra. But I mean, if there was a better clothed version, I mean, because my wife gives me enough hard time, hard enough time that I have Shira and Tila and like all these other kind of female characters. It's just like I have a Hot Toys Wonder Woman from the Justice League. It's just like what's it's like what do you have that? It's like it's a girl. I mean, what the so what are you doing with that? Like I'm just it's a Wonder Woman. But I may have to pass on Tigra. I mean, just because I would hate for every time she comes up, I have to hide it or something like that. just because it's like this, she's essentially wearing a bikini. So, but I mean, to get back to Dark Wolf though, I mean, I think I was on the fence on that one definitely because again, I agree with the price point, but seeing them at Paracon, they let me hold them, they let me kind of like pose them. I was just like, it's different, I guess, for me when I can kind of see things up close and see it, in person. That a lot of times that can be like the deal breaker for me. Like I saw Beastman, the Mondo Beastman at PowerCon. I was kind of like, I think I'm good, And now if I hadn't seen him at PowerCon and I just saw you know, the photos, the amazing photography for him, I would be like, oh, I'd be up. I'm all over that. Like I'm gonna get him, no questions or anything. But yeah, seeing him up close was, kind of swayed me away. But for Dark Wolf, yeah, I mean, and again, the articulation not being a showstopper for me, but the price point, yeah, he's got around the same articulation as a Mythic Legion, something from the Horsemen, and those are like generally around between 30, $50, somewhere around there. I mean, around Legions, and I kind of imagine that's where you know he should be priced at somewhere around that level. Maybe 60 somewhere at that. So I mean, that's why it's so hard for me to think of going for longer in the line. Maybe Necron, and that I'm probably tap out after that. But definitely, I was just like, I mean, he's so cool looking. But it's like, yeah, I do agree. 95. I was kind of like, well, it actually was like I think 105. I think after shipping because I got them through BBTS, so I didn't get them straight from the Rosetta Girls. I got them through Big Bad Toy Store. So you end up coming around to like I think I'm 105 total.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah,
in fairness, Frazetta Girls might have offered it a little cheaper,
yeah,
but still, yeah, the price point was crazy. Like when that line was announced, I'm like, I'm in. And when I heard Amon O'Donoghue was designing it, and he was on my on our podcast, I'm like, I'm in, And then when I saw the price point, I'm like, I'm out, because it's this big and it's
yeah,
$95, and it's just I talked to you about how wonderful it is that Masterverse hasn't priced people out. It's
yeah,
1999, now it's like 22. And I compared it to Super 7's Conan the Barbarian figures, which I loved, and those are around the $50 range. This one is 95, and it feels like it shouldn't be. It feels like, no offense to, I'm a huge fan of the film, huge fan of Frank Frazetta, huge fan of Amon. It seems like it's entirely too high priced for what it is. And I don't understand why, you know? I mean, this is coming from, it's not like they had the, this is coming from the Frank Frazetta girls, you know, they have the
Mhm.
license. It's not like they went out and bought the, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's so high, but I think ultimately it hurts the line because if I'm a fan, and I am, and I'm not buying it, then there's other fans out there that are not buying it, you know? And I think ultimately you might be pricing too many out. I mean, it's half of a Mondo. Well, actually, some Mondos are less than 200, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think the regular He-Man, the non-deluxe one, I think was like 170, 190. I think. I mean, still under 200, but
okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I get that completely. Now, my thing is, what are your thoughts on the whole? Like, I know we were talking about, Masterverse, gradually getting, a little bit pricier, 19 now 21. But what about the creations, like with Snout Spout being 33, maybe a little bit more added, at least for me, tax and shipping, because here in Texas we have to pay tax
Oh,
and everything. So,
that's a
I
steal, I
mean,
think, because it's a deluxe figure. Do you remember the deluxe ones were a lot more expensive when it
mhm,
came to, like, you know, Triclops Deluxe or New Eternia Too Bad, you know? So it's a deluxe. It's actually cheap for a deluxe figure. I think we paid $38 at like a Target for a deluxe figure, $39. So for me, it's cheaper. And you not only get the accessories, but you get this great diorama, right? That you can
yep.
display it with. So I think the price point is great. The one thing I don't complain about is Mattel Creations price points when it comes to Masterverse. Look, John, at Motherboard. $65
Yeah.
for Motherboard. 65, 12 inches. Gorgeous wings they're articulated. They look like they're spray painted. Beautiful, beautiful cape, you know, soft goods material, thick, well stitched, multiple colors. I mean, it's a gorgeous figure, and it was 65 with this gorgeous diorama box. You know, it closed up like Screech, and then you would open it
Mhm.
up, and it was this great diorama. And I have her displayed over there, and it was only $65. You know, and it to me it would have been worth twice as much. So the one thing I'm not complaining about when it comes to Masterverse is the price points on Mattel
Yeah.
Creations. I think it's a great deal. Did you end up getting Motherboard?
No, no,
Ah,
I had to pass just because, yeah, just no. I mean,
because you
and
got Dark
again,
Wolf, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I did. Hey, he goes great with with Vicor. I mean, it's like, I mean, I plan on doing a collab with them down the
Mhm.
road.
Yeah.
But I mean, just as far as the my 1/6 scale and everything, I just, man, I was back and forth on that. But yeah, I just couldn't, just because I'm trying to. I'm limited space already, and I'm just looking at, like, because I need to get my Skeletor Mondo, my He-Man Mondo, and Battle Cat. I need to get them, like, in like a, right now they're just high on my shelf over here. I mean, off to the side, and I
Okay.
get so worried that they're gonna fall and break and stuff. So I need to get inside a case. But I have a, 1D top that's full of the Justice League. I finally got the whole Hot Toys Zack Snyder Justice League, which, I can go down a rabbit hole with that. It's like, I'm just like, that's gone now because they're rebooting the whole thing. So it's just like, I'm kind of bummed about that. But then I have Trapjaw over there and Hordak, and I
Mm.
just got to do some rearranging. I just like, I mean, she would probably just been like, I haven't even opened up Godlin. I have Godlin, and she's still sealed in the box. I haven't even taken her out yet. So I
Mm.
figured if I did get her, she would have been, yeah, just in the box, and it would have been cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't think having the space for,
Yeah. I don't know.
for
I'm about to revoke your Masters of the Universe fan card for not wanting Snout Spout and not getting Motherboard. No, I'm just kidding, buddy.
I will get them. I mean,
I
eventually,
just
maybe.
hey, there is no gatekeeping here. You know, you get the ones you want. Look, you know, that's the great thing about this fandom. I mean, There's so much for everyone, and you can pick and choose whatever you want, including the shows. And I know you are a huge fan of, and it's an unpopular opinion, of New Adventures. So
Yeah.
I think you mentioned to me that might be your favorite incarnation, right? Your favorite of the animated series, at least back then.
Well, I don't know my favorite.
Oh, I thought you mentioned it was your favorite, maybe. So
Well, it was. I have a love hate with that because I have a new appreciation for it now.
okay,
But with New Adventures, is more or less because with Filmation, that came out when I didn't go to school. I mean, I was a toddler. I was 3, 4 years old. But then when New Adventures came out, this was now I'm having to deal with something called. I mean, it's a real evil place, school.
yeah.
So I'm starting kindergarten, first grade, and having to watch, and I want to watch New Adventures, but I have to get ready to go to school. Like, before, I never had to deal with that. And it was just, I think it was just too different, too soon. I think I was still, I was still watching the old Filmation at that time, and still playing with the old characters, and now, Skeletor doesn't look like Skeletor anymore, and this and that, but I mean, if they had waited maybe until like 92, 93,
Mm.
and I think you definitely probably maybe would have gone, the fans more invested. I think it was just way too soon. The movie had came and gone. I love the movie. I don't care what anybody says. That's like I can watch that. I watch it at least once a month.
Oh, sure.
And I mean, to me, I actually took the New Adventures as a continuation of the film because it kind of, for me, that science or the space, all those ideals kind of resonated with New Adventures. But I just, for me, I look back on it. It was a nice try.
Hmm.
I know when all the documentaries come out, they kind of talk about like, we really don't talk about New Adventures too much. I mean, it was a nice try, but
Look, I don't begrudge anyone for loving anything. You know what I mean? And who is anyone to, because there are fans of New Adventures. There's fans even in our community forums that really love it. We all have our favorites. And again, that's the beautiful thing that, based on our tastes and our personalities, certain things appeal to us and certain things don't. And it could be figures. I'm only teasing you about Snout Spout and Motherboard, and because most people pick and choose the figures they like. Some are, got to collect them all. And that's the great thing. There was so many things to choose from that you get to pick your favorites and you pass on the other ones. Look, if we bought everything, right, we we
yeah.
would our shelves would be overloaded and our spouses would have left us. So
That is definitely true. I actually had to now I may get them eventually, but I did have to cancel my pre-orders for the Conan Super 7, the ones that are coming out here soon with Super Tai and the Battle on the Mounts.
Valor.
Just because I was like, I got too much on my plate right now, so I gotta kind of cancel some of this stuff right now, and then maybe I mean I'm sure there'll be. In fact, if it's Super 7, I mean, they may be on sale down the road. I've noticed that quite a bit. Super 7 gets a little bit. I bought two bats for, I think they were like on sale on Entertainment Earth for like 14.99 a couple months ago.
Mm.
Two Cobra bats, and I was
Oh,
like, wow. And they had Cobra Commander on there for like 17 or something. So they'll have their price cuts eventually. So I kind of have to be on the lookout for those now, just because there's so much I collect now with Masterverse, Four Horsemen, Super 7, and now
right.
Mezco. I'm kind of getting into the Mezco realm now with Dick
Mm.
Tracy. I'm just like, oh man, it's like we're getting in deep, but it's like all these deep cuts though for me, and that's to me, like they asked me like Dick Tracy, like you're a fan of Dick Tracy? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I was a huge fan of the comics, the cartoon, the movie.
Mm.
I mean, it was, and I just like that you know crime noir type of stories. The private detectives, or in his case, he's the actual detective, for the police. But it's just, yeah, all the flat top, prune face, big boy, those are classic characters. And if they came out with something, I think they did come out. One company came out with the Rocketeer, and that's another one. Like if I saw a figure of the Rocketeer,
Mm.
I would. whether it's Mayfex or one of these other companies come out with one, like, yeah, I would definitely pick that up. Maybe just him, but I
Yeah,
mean, it's a character that I was so cool that I never really had a good figure of him growing up. Yeah, I would get something from the Disney store whenever we went to Disney, but it was nothing, nothing like they come out now with all this articulation and the sculpting.
sure. Dick Tracy never got into. I was familiar with the 80s movie, the Warren Beatty movie with Madonna.
Mhm.
And I think Al Pacino is one of the
Yep.
villains and stuff like that. But otherwise, it always seemed it predated me. It felt very. I'm not saying they talk this way, but yeah, I'm gonna get you. See, that kind of. It just felt like it was from a different age. But the one thing I wish there was more content for, there's something I did like, and Filmation made a cartoon for it, was Flash Gordon.
Oh
And
yeah.
it seemed to drop out of the lexicon. Now, some Flash Gordon fans might say, yeah, it's still around, and I get it. There's still some nostalgic toys and stuff like that come here and there, but otherwise, stuff like Dick Tracy, Flash Gordon, what's another one? Buck Rogers. They sort of,
Mhm.
had their heyday, and I think they're just falling off as the prime fans have. I guess most of them, like the majority of them, have become senior citizens. I think the actual brand has pretty much died out, and I expect that one day, be honest with you, to happen with Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
I realize there are some new fans that come here or there, but the lion's share were kids of the 80s, right? And I do
Mhm.
think, there is going to be, I've told a lot of people this. I do think there's going to be a shelf life with our collectibles, a sweet spot. They say when you buy a bottle of wine, there is an age where wine will turn good and then wine will turn bad again. If it's 10 years old, it's that sweet spot. But if it's 25 years old, it's going to be awful. And like Beatles action figures and like Elvis Presley collectibles,
Mhm.
certain as that certain prime audience got a certain age, those actually dipped in prices, and stuff that used to be hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, have come down tremendously, so because as people pass away or get old, they sell their collections off, or their estates sell the collection, and now the market is flooded with it. And I do believe that's going to happen with Masters of the Universe, and I do think there will be a point where fans will have to get in and sell, 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 it's buy and sell,
Yeah.
and know the marketplace. If they're interested in getting top dollar for their items, I would imagine you got somewhere maybe decade left, maybe a little longer, unless somehow the brand gets some sort of rejuvenation. They finally make a Masters of the Universe movie and it's the number one hit, like Barbie, right? And suddenly there's action figures and suddenly everyone's wearing Masters of the Universe shirts and stuff like that. Unless something like that happens, I really do believe, unfortunately, it's going to be this curve. And eventually, as you and I, John, are having races in our wheelchairs, um, and battling with swords, pretending to be He-Man and Skeletor. The younger generation, the whippersnappers, you know, won't be interested in Motu toys, and so at some point, I do think this stuff is going to start losing value. So it's just something that I think about.
I wonder though, you mentioned Barbie though, and before the movie and everything, like how does I mean, because that goes way in the 50s, I think, or 60s, Barbie. And it's like I
Barbie's
wonder
different, right?
well, I mean, I imagine it is, but I never understood like really is it just because it's a doll and it's like something that every little girl, regardless, who they are, they have it growing up. I mean,
Yeah,
or
and
a little
Barbie
or
has
boy
more.
too.
Barbie is morphed. Barbie isn't just that blonde Barbie. There's
Mhm.
Native American Barbie. There's African American Barbie. There's all these
Yeah.
different Barbies, and it's become a brand of a doll versus a character. It's not Buck
Mhm.
Rogers. It's not He-Man. So it's more of a brand that seemed to just be, it's a doll. that you play
Yeah.
with and you create your own stories with, and it's not tied to any sort of like outdated sword and sorcery fantasy genre or something like that, or a space genre like Buck Rogers. And yeah, I think it's just more like having a baby doll, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you like are a little young girl or a little young boy and you want this little baby doll and you want to feed it a little bottle and pretend you're a mom or a dad or what have you, you know, that's never going to go out of fashion, right? So it seems it's a generic type, the Barbie doll versus a sort of theme, a story, a narrative, right? A universe.
Yeah, there you go.
so so that's why I think it continues throughout the years versus something like, you know, well, like He-Man would, or you know, Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers, or what are some of the others? You know, Star Trek has been able to rejuvenate itself with shows and new characters, and that's been able to last through the years amazingly well. And then Star Wars is still hanging on there, right?
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and then stuff like Marvel and DC, you know, the comic world, the superheroes. I wish Motu was like that, but it doesn't seem
yeah.
that way. Yeah.
No, but it feels like, and I mentioned this in some other groups too, like GI Joe. That's one that's, again, just like He-Man. It's kind of like the classified series. People are just wondering like, why is this such a big, like, it's like one of Hasbro's like top lines. I
Mhm.
mean, but it's only part of me wants to believe it's, guys of our age, right, who grew up with GI Joe in the '80s. But there's also people that I've talked to that they're you know barely 20 and their dads are saying like, they grew up with the original GI Joe from like you know from like the '60s, or the '70s, and like, the actual like doll. And they're
Mhm.
talking about like, man, it's like, it's like I had those as a little kid, but then, I became a teenager. I had the real American hero, and now I'm seeing these, and these look so, so great. And it's just like, I mean, but there's no medium though. There's no, like, with DC or Marvel. There's no comics. There's no TV show. There's no movies. Nothing like that for Joe. And it's like, eh, I don't know if maybe it's just the, like, you kind of hit on it with like the fantasy realm with He-Man. That's kind of like kind of gone away, or that's kind of passe. It's kind of not really hip anymore. Whereas GI Joe is, I mean, it's kind of it's army, it's navy, it's the, it's the military force, and you have the terrorists. Maybe those concepts are just, they translate better now, or they're just always like army men. I mean, like
Yeah.
every generation has little army men growing up, and that's just like this iteration of it. But I wish I'm like you. I wish Motu was going to have that staying power, because I think it's a great concept, and I think it's something that should stick around. But I don't know. We have to see.
I think fantasy still thrives, but it's He-Man is more of that sword and sorcery genre, you know, the muscled
Okay.
barbarian, you know, the
Yeah,
Conan and
yeah.
the man in the loincloth, right, with a sword. And
The
that's a
furry
little
underwear.
yeah, that's a little different than, say, Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
fantasy or Harry Potter fantasy, or you know, or what have you. And that, unfortunately, you know, that met its heyday in the '80s, you know,
Yeah.
and that was Fire and Ice in the '80s, and Conan the Barbarian in the
Hmm.
'80s, and you know, Conan,
Beastmaster.
Beastmaster, and He-Man, and this was all created in the '80s, and bodybuilding was
Yeah.
at its peak, and our top movie stars was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme, and these guys with huge muscles, and everything was muscles, muscles, muscles. And maybe one day that will come back again, but right now it hasn't. And unfortunately, it seems to be a thing of its time. And while I do think fathers bring in sons and daughters into the fandom, you know, I worry it's not enough. I think that's happened with Flash Gordon. I think that's happened with Buck Rogers, but for them, it's not enough. Flash Gordon used to be huge. That used to be it. The shows, the movie serials they would do, the comic strips in the newspapers. I mean, that was big. And then, you know, that slowly has fallen off. And you know, I fear that will happen to Masters of the Universe too. But then again, will we care when we're 80 or 90? You know,
Yeah.
like darn it, you know. I mean,
Now,
but
did you like the? I mean, were you a fan of Flash Gordon, the the movie from the '80s during that time?
It's so corny, but yeah, I did love it. I did have the Queen soundtrack, Flash,
Yep.
savior of the
So
universe.
so you don't have any inclination of getting the NECA versions of those that have been kind of rolling out?
Yeah, I got to keep myself limited. I was talking
Mhm,
to Adam and Patrick, the directors of Masters of Universe Revolution, and I said that I was recommending for everyone to support animation, and I was like, don't be like me because I desperately want to watch Castlevania, but I haven't yet because I just haven't had enough time to dedicate
mhm,
outside of the world of Motu. So my life is my wife, family first, and then
mhm.
with my extra free time where I'm not working, it's supporting Masters of the Universe, doing these podcasts, videos. She's just updating the news on Eternia.com is like a second
That
job. So I really don't have time to commit to, other activities and that also goes with collecting as well. That even though I want to get a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I do have a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Mhm.
Primarily, I what I'm if I'm going to spend money on something, it needs to be Masterverse so I can have all the figures and I can judge all of them at the end of the year and say, okay, which is the top 10. I can't not have a few missing and then support or be effective for Eternia that way and this community. So unfortunately, I'm very compartmentalized
Yeah.
and sometimes I'm jealous because some people can just like live in like different fandoms and comment here and buy this and buy that, but this is the life I've chosen. But I also feel very grateful. It's a lot of work. I love this community, and so many people have embraced me in this community, and I embraced them. And I'm just a knucklehead here trying my best. And so far, I've felt love, and I love them. And so no. So a long way of answering your question, no. I won't be investing in those Flash Gordon figures, even though, I would like to, but I've sort of like, honed in on mostly Masters of the Universe, where sometimes I'll look at other figures and go, oh yeah, no. Like Batman and Robin. I
Yeah.
wanted I'm such a sucker for that Batman and Robin movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze, chill out, not sending me to the cooler. But and to have all those figures, and I think I was watching
Mhm,
a Pixel Dan video where he had them all on display, and I'm like, I want that. And oh, Poison Ivy, she looks great. That looks like Uma
mhm.
Thurman. I want that figure. And then I'm like, no. When you have a certain amount of cash to spend and focus on this brand. And so that's what I'm doing. So, but fortunately for what you do with toy photography, it's not just all Masters of the Universe. You can branch out to other fandoms, and then it's become this whole nice assortment of so many genres and so many. It's nice. You could pick and choose, and unfortunately, your Instagram page where you show off all your toy photography, it doesn't have to be focused on one particular fandom. It could be so many, that
Yeah.
caters to many audiences versus, just one.
Yeah, and that's and kind of what I was going with for that, and that's actually great, AJ. That I mean, you're kind of single minded like that because I wish I could be like that because I could save me tons of money. But but the cool thing about because now that those NECA figures are coming out, people are buying them, doing toy photography, and so funny because I'll like their post, but then I'll go in the comments and those people and they're saying, "Who is that? Like, what's they'll see Flash Gordon or Meeting the Merciless, and they'll say like, well, which character? What character is that? Like, it's so cool looking. Like that part of me is hoping that little things like that can kind of get the fandom, kind of like we were saying, kind of maybe keep it, kicking the can down the road of like making sure that it kind of stays around for a little bit while longer. When they release these kind of these, you know, like Dick Tracy, Flash Gordon, or even Buck Rogers, and you know, I know who that is, and I love the figures, and I'll take photos of it and appreciate it. But then you may get new fans that like, oh man, that's like I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even let me go back and watch. there's a movie on that, or this and there's this and that about it. Like, let me go check that out. So,
Mm.
you know, that's sometimes cool to kind of see that when, you know, you can kind of get new people, you know, ingrained in something that they had no idea about.
Yeah.
They just see the figure and they just see your photo of it and they're just like so impressed with, they're just, you know, they just want to know about more about the figure and more about the character. And like, yeah, it's Flash Gordon. You know, he's from like this cheesy '80s movie, but it was so awesome. You know, it had a great soundtrack and it had James Bond in there before he became James Bond, Timothy Dalton and stuff. So it's just, yeah, it's kind of cool when you kind of when you see that happening. And that's what even for you when you mentioned you were, you know, Flash Gordon fans, like I wonder if AJ is, if he's getting those NECA figures. But I do know, yeah, you are kind of, you know, your folks, you try and focus on one line. That is Masterverse, and that is a full time. I feel like a full time job. I could imagine every news thing that pops out, like, oh, I got to report on this and I got to report on that. You and the other, you know, the toy reviewer, that, you know, people ingrained in the you know, news and everything. Like if something was to drop tonight, like right now, like, you know, oh yeah, you know, we just signed, you know, Amazon just signed the contract for the new Master Universe movie, and it's going to be
Ugh.
starring Brad Pitt. And you'd be like, oh, I'm going to go to bed, but I can't. I got to write an
Yeah.
article now.
I was telling Mega J that I was lying down the bed, and the next thing you know, a story broke, and I had to write 2 articles. And I'm just, oh, I guess I'm not doing that. And yeah, sometimes it's tough, and you go, oh man, what did I sign up for? And then sometimes it's so rewarding. You know what makes it rewarding? Anytime someone says thank you for, you know, once in a while someone will say thanks. You know, someone says thanks AJ for keeping us up to date with the news. Someone will comment in YouTube, or thanks for this video and stuff like that. Be honest with you, that keeps me going. You know, it's just a little appreciation nugget here and there, and then that makes it all worth it. You know, if nobody appreciated it, I probably would have stopped by now. And I feel really obligated ever since He-Man.org closed down. You know, I feel like I've taken more of the mantle. You know, it wasn't my intention to. It just, obviously I had no idea they were going to shut down, but more of a responsibility now to support the fandom and keep them up to date with everything that's going on, and support the community when something's going wrong. You know, and that's why I had posted, you know, a Dear Mattel post, you know, where it was, I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm friends with Cork, so yeah,
Okay. Okay.
he posted in our chat, and I was like, yeah, that's good. You know, AJ's a good guy. You know, because, you know, he was. I mean, I guess y'all were in conversation, but he was just like, so like, I'm so glad, I'm so happy that he posted that. It was so awesome, and yeah, it's like, yeah, it's you know, that's good. I mean, because I mean, it's you got to point out the negative as well as the positive. You can't just be kind of, you know, one or the other. It's like when they're just like we were talking about the shipping issues. I mean, you got to point that out. You can't just say everything's, you know, roses and everything. Like, no, there's some weeds in there a little bit, you know, a little bit.
Yeah, and the great thing about Motu Origin's Cork letter was it was constructive. You know, that's the only thing I asked. Like he had originally asked me just to retweet a message, you know, just to get something out there and tag Mattel. And I was like, I could do you one better, man. I could give you the platform if you want to write it, you know. And the only thing that was important to me was like a bitch fest, you know, like Mattel, you suck.
Yeah.
Go to bleeping Valhalla, go to Paternia, no, go to Subternia. You know, yeah. But Motu Origins Cork wrote this just wonderful letter that was so constructive and so positive, and coming up with suggestions on how to do things better. Where even Mattel, I mean, even if, how can Mattel be upset at that letter, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when it's coming from a place of honesty and someone from, you know, who loves the brand and doesn't want to see it go away for people like him, you know. And yeah, so, you know, I felt like that made me so happy that For Eternia could be a place, a voice for the fans. Originally, when it started, it was the Masters of the Universe Revelation site. And it became so much more than that, you know, and it became so much more than just me being a knucklehead fan. And the fact that we could do stuff like that, where we could just say, here's your platform, you know, go. And he wrote the heck out of it. That thing was so long, but it was great in all these like chapters. And I know for a fact people at Mattel read it. And you know, will anything happen? I don't know. All we could do is shout from the rooftop and shine a spotlight on a situation and then hope for the best. But if we don't try that, if we don't do that, then we're to blame too, right? So they know, they know, and hopefully Motu Origins Cork, that letter, conversations like this we have in regards to national shipping will make an impact down the road. I don't expect an immediate impact. Hopefully, they find ways to improve and support the community, because the community really wants to support them and this brand, desperately so.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, all right, my friend. Well, I think we ran the gamut here. So do you, John, have anything else you'd like to touch upon or add before we sign off, sir?
No, not really. I just I mean, for me, I'm just a guy who takes photos. I just yeah, I got to figure out how I'm going to do this. I need to take some shots with it fully set up, but this thing's so big. It's just so massive. I want to do a video review, or not review, but a video reveal, and kind of just have some epic music playing. And I got my little smoke machine that I can, pump in here. But I bought like a backdrop that I wanted to have behind it. It was like a space kind of celestial type, starry sky backdrop. And when I got it, I hung it up and I was like, oh crap, this thing's too small. It's like it barely could. I mean, like on the sides and the top. So I gotta go back. I mean, I can still use the backdrop for just regular, like kind of Eternia photos. Like just I found it on Amazon, but I need to get a bigger one for this thing because it's like I want to have something that completely covers everything up. But no, I mean, oh, go ahead.
I wonder if there's something to also striking when the iron is hot, like you wanted to do this video, I wanted to do this video. Now that we've waited so long, will it have as much of an impact as it would have had a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, that kind of thing. So,
well, I mean, I haven't seen too many people. I guess because it's so big, but I think Pixel Dan's video is like the only one I saw of Eternia. I'm sure there's plenty others, but
there are tons out there actually, if you search. Yeah. There's tons. But it'd be cool to see.
Style though, AJ. You have a certain style. That's the thing. I mean, you gotta yeah. Your review of the statues and everything, just your regular reviews. I mean, they're good. I mean, you have definitely look for that. I mean, when anything that I go to review, like if I'm on the fence for a figure and I haven't gotten it yet, and I know you have, like, I'm going to AJ's review.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, because I'm a goofball. So, and but you know what? I'm a proud goofball. I'm not afraid to be a goofball, So if I have like 3 naked He-Mans out there and it looks like Chippendales to me, I'm gonna play a song, It's Raining Men, unabashedly, because that's what just comes to my mind. And other people might be like, are you crazy? But I don't know. This is the weird stuff that goes on the old noggin, and I guess I'm just not afraid to put myself out there for good or bad, But I appreciate that. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I appreciate when I am someone's cup of tea. So thanks, John. Now I know you're just saying that because you were my friend, but that's all right. All right, so that's a wrap all. We want to thank John for being on today. Thank you, sir. It's been a blast. And thanks to everyone out there for listening to this podcast. Now, if you haven't checked it yet, be sure to head on over to Emerald Knight Photos on Instagram to support all of John's awesome content there. And is there a YouTube channel they should be headed to?
Yeah, we just started one. I'm also a member of the Geeked Out Click, and every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central, we have Geeked Out Live. Me and my co-hosts, Night Terrors and Sid Vicious Toys. We get on, same thing like this, live stream, hang out. We have a weekly showcase of different toy photographers. We go through their page. We talk toy photography. We talk, you know, just general geekdom. I mean, we run the gamut. So it could be toys, comics, TV, movies, anything that we kind of just want to talk about. So yeah, that's Geeked Out Live on Tuesday nights on YouTube.
On YouTube. Okay, so be sure to check out that. And if you enjoyed this show, please show us your support by subscribing to our streams, our channel, and please give us a like and a comment below if able. And you can also drop us a line by sending us an email to foreternia@gmail.com. We really do love the feedback. And as always, please visit us at foreternia.com for all the latest updates and news, as well as links to our social media pages like X, Facebook, and Instagram that can help you stay up to date with all of our Masters of the Universe content. So that's it. We would like to thank you all for listening, and let the power return. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.